Now that we have that knowledge about lists in MYOB, another important thing you need to understand is how MYOB is set up and how this can be helpful in the day-to-day use of MYOB. So when you first start MYOB, I would suggest that if it's the first time you've created a company file and you want to set up that company in MYOB, you use this Easy Setup Assistant. This will really help you navigate setting up all the transactions in MYOB more easily. But I would also advise that you seek someone who has good knowledge of MYOB, who can tell you whether the functions you're trying to use actually fit within MYOB and whether the buttons you're clicking are the right ones for your business. It's very important that you create a good MYOB setup that you can use sustainably within the operations of the business, because this will be the backbone of your business. When you go to balances, these balances are the opening account balances, job opening balances, and customer and supplier balances. So when you transfer from one MYOB file or one accounting system to another, you need to set up your opening balances. For example, if the bank has an opening balance, you need to enter that opening balance in MYOB. This will ensure that when you do reconciliation, the balance is correct. For job opening balances, if there is a balance from the previous system that you're using that needs to be carried forward, you can definitely add a job opening balance. When you add all these job opening balances, all the amounts that you put in there will go to equity. Another thing is that a lot of people don't understand what linked accounts means. Linked accounts means that there are certain functions in MYOB that will not ask you for a debit and credit. The linked account basically means that if you use this function, you agree to link that transaction to a specific general ledger account. So the general ledger entry is hidden behind that function. A good example would be the linked accounts for accounts and banking accounts. For example, the bank account for electronic payments is the payroll clearing account, and the bank account for undeposited funds is a general ledger account. You can change these, but to better understand what linked accounts really means, let's look under purchase accounts. The liability tracking for all purchases goes into trade creditors, and the bank account for paying bills generally goes to this account. So when you try to click purchases and enter a purchase, you'll notice it doesn't ask you for a debit and credit. It just asks you what kind of purchase it is. Let's say we click this one, put test here, choose an account code, say 6-1, enter the amount and the job. In this transaction, you know that the debit account is this account number, but you don't actually see what the credit account is. You know the debit, but you don't know the credit. When you're using purchases and you record this purchase, MYOB will automatically create the credit entry on the liability account based on the linked accounts. So if you click record, it will use whatever is in the linked accounts as the credit. It will automatically use 2-1110 as the trade creditor's account without you even seeing it. That is very important because you might think, I know I debited an expense, but I don't know what I credited. That's where linked accounts are useful. You can change these as much as you can, but you need to be very careful when changing them, because once you change them, the next transactions you enter will use what's in the linked accounts. Another thing you need to understand is preferences. The preferences here control how you use MYOB. There are a lot of functions in here that are very helpful. For example, warn if jobs are not assigned to all transactions. The system will warn you if there are any transactions that don't have a job code. For example, when you go to purchases and you want to enter another transaction, say test here, choose account code 5, and you don't put a job code on it, when you try to record it, it gives you this message: one or more lines of this transaction don't have a job number assigned. If this preference is unticked, it will not notify you. Because we want all our transactions assigned to a job number, that preference needs to be ticked. If you untick this, you won't be notified if any lines don't have a job code. There are other system settings in here that are really helpful for ensuring there is internal control when you're using MYOB. These are system type preferences. You also have window type preferences. For example, If you want to select and display account names instead of account numbers, normally you see the account number here. If you want to change that to account name, you can do that by ticking this option. If you want to select items by item name instead of item number, you can also do that. Under reports and forms, for example, the daily aging periods, if you want to change how the periods are done, say 100 days, 200 days, and 300 days, that's available in MYOB account right. Under banking, if you want to make a contact log entry for every check, that's also possible, and a contact log entry for every deposit. That can be really helpful for monitoring your checks. Under sales, if you want to automatically print invoices or make a contact log for every sale, or be warned if there are duplicate invoices, you can also tick those options. It's good for you to understand what preferences or internal controls you can put in your MYOB by going through each of these and making sure they actually help you monitor MYOB. One of the most important things in here that we always go through is transactions cannot be changed. They must be reversed. Previously, we had transactions that we could delete, but a lot of times staff erroneously delete the wrong transaction, and it's hard to find out what happened previously at the end of the month. So for other organizations, we don't allow anyone to change or delete a transaction. Instead, the transaction needs to be reversed and corrected. This way, we can still follow what happened to the transactions. This is also what we look at when we lock MYOB for past transactions. Those past transactions cannot be opened anymore. We change this at the beginning of each month once we finalize MYOB and once we have entered all the transactions, reconciliation, and reporting. We then lock the previous period so it won't change, and any changes in that MYOB file would affect the reports that we already published. Under emailing, for example, if you want MYOB to email people, this is the email that MYOB will use, and if there are any responses, the responses from MYOB will go directly to this email. One thing you won't see in here that I will show you in the next video is the user setup. So I'll see you guys in the next video.